In this video, I'll be showing you how to make a leather sling for your fellow Carter mug, both the Everywhere and the Move in any size. Now, I love this mug. The only problem is that I would love a way to carry it around with me. Taking inspiration from Quinto and their line of travel mugs, and the sling they've designed for them, I set out to design my own. This is a prototype that I designed and tested, and it works pretty well. However, it's made of 6 different pieces of leather with 9 different stitches. That's a bit complex. I worked on optimizing that prototype and came up with this. 3 pieces of leather with 5 stitches. That's a bit better. Because I want other people to be able to make this design easily and without spending a whole lot of money, I based it off of a 4x16 pre-cut panel of sample leather. I buy these pre-cut panels from Rocky Mountain Leather. There are various styles, tannings, and colors to choose from, and they're not super expensive. I also recommend adding their free leather skiving service and getting the leather thinned to 3.5 to 4 ounces, or about 1.4 to 1.6 millimeters thick. The rope I sourced from rope.com, 6 feet to be exact. You can use any rope that is sold by the foot, preferably around 9 millimeters, but I'll leave that to your preference. This design is easily customizable, so mix and match the rope and leather and mug that feels right to you. I sourced the D-rings from Amazon.com. They are 1 1/4 inches. I actually prefer these matte black D-rings from Buckle Guy, but they're kind of expensive. For this project, you will need the following: a leather knife or box cutter, a ruler, preferably 18 inches, but a standard 12-inch ruler will do, a cutting mat or board, a poundo board or a punching pad with block, waxed nylon or polyester thread, harness needles, pricking irons, a mallet, a stitching awl or pen or something sharp to mark the leather with, double-sided stitching tape, 1/4 inch preferable, a lighter, and bonus points for a burnishing rod and electrical tape. Links in the description for all the stuff that I just mentioned. First things first, let's see what we're looking at. Now, the Move mug comes in 3 different sizes: 8 ounce, 12 ounce, and 16 ounce. And there is a 32 millimeter difference between each size. Secondly, the Carter Everywhere mug. It comes in 2 sizes, 12 ounce and 16 ounce, and there's a 23 millimeter difference in height between each size. I would definitely recommend watching this video through at least once before making your own. The sling is composed of 3 leather pieces. First, the main strap, which goes vertical and connects to the D-rings. Second, the big band, which wraps around the mug. And thirdly, the bottom band, which helps reinforce the design and helps keep larger sizes of the mug from falling out of the sides. We're going to cut our pieces, mark them, tape them, and finally we'll get to assembly. I'll provide dimensions based on the style of the Carter mug that you're working with. In the description is a link to a template I made on Figma, along with a guide to the stitching directions for each of the 5 stitches. Now, you'll notice in the Figma template I provided and in the descriptions below, there are 2 sets of dimensions for the 16 ounce Move mug. And the reason for that is that you can only get so long out of a main strap out of that 4x16 panel. The correct dimensions are a little bit longer than that. So if you have your own leather and you're planning on making this, then I would recommend the longer set of dimensions. Otherwise, the shorter panel-based set is what you need. You'll still get a good fitting sling out of the shorter set of dimensions. That's why that's a thing. Cutting. Lay your panel out horizontally. Grab your ruler and an awl or a pen. Mark 3 centimeters down from the top on both sides. Use your ruler to mark only where your fingers are applying pressure. You can then slide your fingers down and continue marking. Marking with your awl will score the leather. Then you can take your knife. Again, let your first cut or two score the leather and further create a channel for your knife to go through, which then you can follow up with more pressure. Because we've scored our leather, we've increased the chances that our knife will go exactly where we want it to. Now we'll trim this first piece we've cut to size. Here are the dimensions you'll need to make for the cut based on your mug. Now you have your main strap. Now take the remainder of your panel and measure down 7 centimeters on both sides and cut. Again, we'll trim this piece to size. Now this one I'll tell you about. The Move mug is 28.5 and the Everywhere mug is 31.1. And now you have your big band. The remainder of your leather is already the width you need, which should be 1.5 centimeters. If it's not quite that, it's not a big deal. And we'll now cut this size to length. Now you have your bottom band. You've made almost all of your cuts. There's one more later, but you have all your pieces. If you're using veg tan, I'd recommend burnishing your leather at this stage by wetting the edges with water or burnishing fluid and hitting it with an edge burnisher. Marking and taping. If you are trying to stick together 2 pieces of leather and the tape just isn't sticking, that could be because the leather is too smooth for the tape to grab onto. And so in that case, what I do is you can use your awl, the point of it, or you can use a file to just scratch the leather, and that's going to help pick up some of those fibers for the tape to adhere to, so the whole bond is just a little bit stronger. Take your bottom band. We'll mark this band in 12, yes 12, places and tape it in 3. First, mark in 15 millimeters or 1.5 centimeters on both ends of the band on top side and underside. On the underside, make marks 5 millimeters in towards the edge on that line. Same thing on the very edge of the band. Connect those marks. We've now divided this box up into 3 equal parts. Perfect. Second, mark the middle 30 millimeters on both the top side and underside. I'll display the dimensions now. Where those marks are, on the underside, mark 5 millimeters from the edge and extend that mark so that it's about 6 millimeters from each line in the center, but don't connect that line with those initial marks. So now we've got 2 lines that are 6 millimeters from each of the marks for the middle 30 millimeters. Now we'll apply tape to our 3 marked off areas on the top side. Go ahead and press down and cut off the excess. Have a small bowl or ramekin to put your scraps in. Be careful when cutting off the excess tape in the middle. Use light pressure here. All right, now set your bottom band to the side. Take your main strap. We'll mark this band in 6 places and tape it in 2. First, mark in 7 millimeters on both ends of the strap on the top side. Second, mark in 3.7 centimeters or 37 millimeters on both ends on the underside. Third, mark the middle 15 millimeters on the underside. I'll display the dimensions now. Now we'll apply tape to both ends on the inside. Apply tape on the line you drew, but with the edge of the tape on the outside of that line, towards the edge of the strap. Cut off the excess. Now peel the tape off of one end and loop it over, with the very end of the strap meeting that line you drew on the inside. Use the back of your awl to press the tape down. Set your main strap to the side. Take your big band. We'll mark this band in 11 places and tape it in 6. Yeah, I saved the worst for last. First, mark in 30 millimeters on both ends on the top side. Second, mark the middle 30 millimeters on the top side. For the Move mug, that's 12.75 and 15.75, and for the Everywhere, that's 14.05 and 17.05. Third, flip the band over to the underside. We'll be marking on the bottom for the connections to the bottom band. When you make these marks, extend them no longer than 15 millimeters. You just want to make sure you can see them later when you're connecting those two together. Now flip the band over to the top side, keeping your marks on the bottom facing you. On the mark you made on the right of the band, mark 7 millimeters down on that line with a nick towards the edge. On the edge, draw the line.
Now cut that part out. So now you've got your cutout on the top towards the right and your marks on the bottom on the inside. Now grab your tape. The distance between each marked area is it's 3 centimeters. So tape inside of those 3 areas. That's 6 strips of tape in total, like so. Cut off the excess. Now it's time to move on to assembly. Hold on to your tape because we will use it again later. Assembly, stitches 1 and 2. You've got your big band in front of you. Flip it back over to the underside. Now take your bottom band. It doesn't matter which end. We're going to stick it onto the marks we made on the big band, lining up the bottom edge of the big band with the line we drew inside the bottom band. So both undersides are facing us. Peel the tape off, line it up, and press it down. Now it's time to punch our first set of holes. Remember those little lines we drew? Well, those are now our stitch lines. We're going to punch 8 holes in total, 4 on the left line and 4 on the right. Of those 4, 2 will be centered on the line, and then 1 will be above through the big band only, and 1 will be below on the bottom band only. Now you can punch your holes with irons if you have them, particularly a 1 and a 2, or you can punch them with a stitching awl. I'll leave that up to you. Additionally, I have pricking irons with a distance of 6 millimeters between each tine or each fork. So the amount of holes I instruct you to punch will be based on these. But you're welcome to punch more or less holes based on your preferred stitching distance or the size of your own irons. So the 2 inside first. Line it up, make sure it's straight up and punch, nice and light. The same thing on the other side, but you want to make sure your irons are piercing through both layers of leather. Now take your 1 and follow the line like so, and we now have a rectangle. Yeah. Okay, remove the band. Yeah, remove it. We're going to repeat this process on the other side. After you're done, remove the band again. Assembly, stitch 3. Now it's time to attach our bottom band to our main strap. These lines will help us attach the 2 together in exactly the right spot, and these stitch lines in the middle will help us punch our holes. Same as before. Take your tape on your bottom band. You've got the guidelines you marked, but again, use the lines on your cutting mat to make sure things are square, or just eyeball it. Peel the tape, press it down. Okay, we're gonna punch 8 holes, and same as before, same layout. 4 on the left, 4 on the right. 1 hole at each end of the line we drew, 2 between them. I'll go ahead and punch those holes. And now, we're actually gonna stitch. Grab your thread. So basic rule of thumb when stitching is to calculate the total length or circumference of your stitching area. In this case, we'll be stitching this box, so the total length is about 46 millimeters, and I'll just round that up to 50. Now, we take our total length, and typically we're going to times that by 4 to 5, so that's about 200. So I want at least 20 centimeters of thread. I'm probably going to use more than that. Always use more thread if you don't need it, because if you have less, then you're screwed. But if you have more, then you're still okay. Okay, so here we go. Got our thread and we got our needle. And I'm going to try and get this close to the camera as I can. I'm going to thread that needle. Got it pulled it through a few inches. All right, I'm gonna take the needle and I'm going to put on my thread and I'm gonna stab it back through the thread. Like so, okay? And I've done it, I'm gonna pull up on the thread at the end so that it starts to come through. So this is what we have right now. Okay, and then I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna bring it down, all right? And then I'm gonna take the tip of the needle in my right hand, and then I'm going to take the needle, or take the end of the thread and pull it, and then it's gonna pop off the base of the needle, boop, like that, okay? And now we have this weird thing, but now I'm gonna take this into the thread and I'm gonna pull on that, and then it's gonna do this. Whee! Boop! All right, and now we've made a needle lock. Crazy. Okay, and we're gonna do that on the other side as well. Okay. Now for this one, I'm gonna start at the middle, and I wanna make sure that got an even amount of thread on both sides. And then I'm gonna take this
And I'm going to start going down lengthwise, all right? And I'm only gonna put through halfway, okay? And then I'm going to, I'm holding on to it with my pointer and middle finger, the piece, and then I'm gonna bring this through, okay? And then I pinch it while I have the needle between my two fingers. Okay, so I'm looking back over this as I'm editing it, and I find this to be really confusing. You can still watch this, and if you glean something from it, great. If this makes sense to you, love that. But I'm gonna post a video, it's gonna be up here, on stitching, which I will replace later with a more professionally done video. But this video I'm linking to is just gonna make a little bit more sense than this, in my opinion. And if that video doesn't help, then I would recommend you watch this video by Quarter Leather on saddle stitching without a pony. I hope that helps. Bye. And because it's a diamond shaped stitch, we want and it's always going to even itself out. So I'm going to hold the through thread with my left and come down, and then the one that I'm about to go through, I'm going to go above it in the hole, and then when I pull it out, I'm going to come right, and then I'm going to complete that diagonal. Okay, and then same thing. All right, so I'm going to come with my right hand, I'm going to push it through, but only halfway, come back, switch. All right, then pull through with my left hand, go down left, pinch, go above that thread while I'm pushing it through the hole, come to the right. Don't pull too hard because you might pull it out of the lock. All right, we've come down 2 stitches, so now we can work our way back. Okay, so normally I'd only have to go, so I've come to the end, right? Where it started, and normally I'd only have to go back 2 and then I get into the stitch, but then it wouldn't look even. I would have parts of the stitch that had 2 layers of thread and parts that only had 1. So when I double back, I'm gonna go all the way.
Now the stitching is almost done. Time for the last stitch. We're going to push the needles through the inside of both layers at the final hole, like so.
So I'm going to work it in between the layers of leather, so it comes out the middle. All right, and then I got 1 thread through, and now I need to do the other.
And then I will cut off the needles with my knife, leaving several inches of thread. And then I will knot the 2 ends twice. And then I'm going to try and cut as close to the knot as I can without cutting the leather. And then if you can get your lighter in there to try and melt the excess down, good. But if you can't, then a trick that I have is that I like to take the lighter to my awl and heat up the metal, and then get in there with my awl and press down into it to try and flatten it down. And then I'll press down on the layers of leather to really flatten it. And you're done. you have completed your stitch. Now I want you to go ahead and take your excess thread off your needles, and then I want you to take your lighter and I want you to light the flame to the eyes of the needles, just for a second or two, kind of burn off any wax residue that's in there, just to make it easier when you're threading the needle next time. All right, we're going to repeat the same process for all of our other stitches as well. Stitches 4 and 5. Now it's time to work on attaching our main strap to our big band. This is going to be a long process, but it's fairly simple. Grab your big band and your main strap. Here we'll be attaching the end of our main strap that we folded into a loop in the side of the big band that we cut a corner out of. And you'll see that the loop fits perfectly into this little slot and lines up the edges. Peel off your tape and do just that. Now we'll mark our stitch lines. Our lines will be in the shape of a box and will be 3 millimeters from the edges. For this edge and that edge of the main strap, it's pretty obvious, I'm referring to those edges. But for the top lines, I am referring to the continuation of the big band underneath the main strap. And if you even want to do it 5 millimeters from the edge, just to make sure you have extra clearance, go ahead and do that when you're drawing your box. This extra line over here, remember that this is a flap, so I'm drawing this line 3 millimeters down from this edge and then 3 millimeters away from this edge of the main strap, just to make things look clean and even and balanced. And we're going to be stitching over here just to help secure that flap, which I'm going to mention in the narration anyway. Now it's time to punch. If you have a diamond shape fork like I do, all the punches on the left and right, including the corners of the box, should be vertically aligned. Quick tip here, I didn't explain this well at all while I was shooting, and I just wanted to make sure this was covered. But when you're punching your holes for punch number 5, be careful of how the punches come through the other side. When you have 2 pieces of leather meeting each other in the back from the big band and then the loop made by the main strap that is eventually going to go over that D-ring, you need to make sure that you're not punching through the edges of the leather where those 2 pieces meet, so you don't want to rip the edge. If you want to punch the first set of holes and then kind of see how much clearance you have, and maybe you need to, skip down a few more millimeters before you make the next set of punches, go ahead and do that. But just be careful that you have enough clearance between those where those 2 pieces of leather meet. That's all. Now I'll punch 2 extra holes over here. This is to help ensure this bit that would otherwise flap back and forth. This is a little more complicated than necessary. I think it needs to be done to secure this so the leather doesn't tear. Now we're going to separate the leather. Yes, I know, all of our hard work for nothing, but you'll see. So now we're going to take the other end of the big band and do the same thing we did before. This time we're relying on this line 7 millimeters from the top to find our placement. So place your tape, peel, do your best to line it up, and press down firmly. Because we already punched the holes on the main strap, we can simply use those holes as a guide for punching more holes. Okay, and separate again. Yes, I know. Back to our main strap. You see this end we didn't fold? We'll make that loop now, except this time we're going to take one of our D-rings and place it in before pressing down our loop. Press very firmly here. Use the back of your awl to really press it in. Take your big band, same process as before with the other end. And we're also relying on this line 7 millimeters from the top to find our placement. Peel the tape, line it up, and eyeball it because you're taping from the other side, and press down firmly. Same deal as before, we're marking stitch lines in the shape of a box 3 millimeters from the edge. We won't need to punch the 2 extra punches on the side this time. This time you can just go ahead and punch your holes. This time we're going to stitch. So this time I'm measuring out about 2 to 3 feet of thread, and the way that I'm stitching is this. I'm going to start at the top right corner, and then I'll stitch to the left 2 holes right to the middle of the top. And then I'll come back and I'm going to go away all the way around until I meet that hole in the top middle, and then I'll come back 2 stitches to finish at the top left corner. I'll push my needle out of that hole inside of this loop, where I'll then tie the stitch off and melt it down. Now it's time for our 5th stitch, and perhaps the most challenging. You got this. However, I would recommend getting a towel or something because your hands are going to get sweaty, because I know mine did. We'll need to tape everything back up. Hey everyone, when you are taping everything back up to do stitch number 5, I didn't mention this, but you want to make sure that the end of the big band with the cutout is on the outside, directly under the main strap, and then the solid end is on the inside. The loop you'll need to tape up the same as before, but with the D-ring this time. And the other layers, you really only need to stick pieces of tape in the middle. You just want the pieces to stay stuck together while you're stitching to make the process easier. The stitch direction here is largely the same. You're going to start at the top right and you're going to finish at the top left, except you're not going to finish. You're going to keep going. And you're going to go down this little box to the side, 1, 2, 3 stitches, and double back 3, 2, 1, and still finish at the top left. This is going to be hard because all of the rest of the structure is in the way. When pulling your needle through and the rest of the thread, take your time with it. You don't want to get the thread snagged on anything. You don't want to accidentally rip it out, break the thread, etc. It's going to be complex. If you need to, you can kind of like work the leather so that you're able to get at the needle more easily. It's going to be tough. That's okay. All right, if you've made it, congratulations. You're now done with the most complex stitch. There are only 2 stitches left. They're not that hard. Stitches 1 and 2 again, but I'll show you the stitch direction. We'll do exactly the same as we did for stitch number 3, except instead of starting in the corner, we're going to start 1 from the corner, and that's just to ensure that we're starting where both layers are together, both sides to the finish line. Again, it'll be difficult because the rest of the structure is now in the way, but you do have these spaces right here to help you get to it. When I end the stitch, I'm going to do it on the side right here, and now we're done. So congratulations, you have finished stitching the sling rope. Now it's time to prepare your rope. Your rope should already have been melted off at the end and taped like so, but if not, you can take it to an outdoor goods store or climbing gym nearby and have them do it. They might charge a fee. Let them. That is preferable. I don't recommend doing this on your own. It's my job to tell you, do not try this at home. But if you have to, have someone with you when you do it that can help, just in the case something goes wrong. So here's what you can do if you get rope and the ends are unfinished. This is kind of like a quick and easy way, but what I did was I got a really sharp knife and I cut the end, okay, and then I burned it off, and then I wrapped it in electrical tape just to help secure it. Now ideally, you would wrap it in electrical tape and then you would use a hot knife to cut where the tape was, and that would give you like a nice clean end. You can follow this up with Plastidip. If you haven't heard of it, you can get it at the hardware store. It's basically like liquid rubber, and you can dip this in the Plastidip and then hang it to dry, and it'll form like a really nice end. I don't have any, and I wasn't gonna buy a can just for this one project, but that's something you could do if you wanted to. Now it is time to tie your rope on your D-ring. You can adjust it to your personal preference by making the knots higher or lower. I want you to knot it like this. Here's a diagram. This is a figure 8 knot, if anyone's wondering.
There's also a link to this other knot, and the website is I'm gonna link in the description to the website. I did not ask the website if I could use these images, so hopefully I'm not in trouble.
Yay, you did it. You're done. That was crazy. Woo!
Thank you for watching this video. I'm sorry it took so long to make. If at any point in this video you felt that something was unclear, confusing, not covered at all, please comment below. If you're actually making this yourself and you're stuck on something, feel free to send me an email. If you're super stuck and you just really need advice, I may even be willing to jump on a Zoom call with you to help you through it. I'm not gonna be guiding anyone through the entire process, and if I end up getting like 100 requests for Zoom calls a day, then I might have to go back on that statement just because that seems a little bit unsustainable. But I wanna make sure that you guys are able to make this, so after collecting comments and feedback, I might end up pulling this video and editing it, or maybe even reshooting the whole thing. So yeah, in my next video, which is gonna come out super soon, I am going to show you an entirely new way of brewing coffee, again, for the second time. It's gonna be super weird, but super fun, and I really want more people to make coffee like this because it's just stupid. So yeah, stay tuned and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.